Hi, my name is Paco Nathan, and I'm here with O'Reilly Media. We're at the Strata Data Conference, and today it's a pleasure to be joined with Mike Olson, who is Chief Strategy Officer for Cloudera. Great to see you, Mike.
Thank you. We've been doing this together for a bunch of years, and it's great to see you again this year.
Wonderful. I'm really looking forward to this show. It's a much bigger venue and a lot of really exciting content here.
Yeah, I think so. The agenda looks fantastic.
Wonderful. Well, the first question, now combined with Hortonworks, Cloudera's mission is to offer the industry's first enterprise data cloud. What exactly is that? Can you describe that a bit more for us?
Yeah, let me talk about the transformation that we're seeing in the industry and what's behind that message. And then I want to talk a little bit as well about why the two companies together, now a single bigger company, are able to pursue. We've learned from the dramatic and magnificent success of the public cloud vendors over the past decade that large enterprise users want ease of use. They want self-service. They want to be able to spin up workloads on demand. They want all the flexibility that public cloud offers. Most of our customers are still running really substantial data centers of their own. And what they'd like is all of that convenience and simplicity and self-service at home as well as on the public cloud. So the first thing that we need to do as an industry, that we want to do as a company, is deliver the public cloud experience on owned hardware, real private cloud. Turns out that's been a goal for a long time, but with the advent of Docker for containerization, of Kubernetes for orchestration, we're newly able to do that. Separate storage from compute and let people spin workloads up and spin them down. That means same apps run at home and in the public cloud. But there's a second part of enterprise data cloud that matters, and that is the enterprise part. It's not enough merely to be able to run your workloads where you like. You need to be able to secure, manage, govern the data that you've got. You've got to be able to live up to regulatory requirements. And you really want a picture of your data across that fabric. Some is going to be living in the public cloud, some will be running in your own data center, some may be on a managed service provider. You'd like a single pane of glass, a dashboard, that lets you set and enforce security policies and then monitor their application consistently. And that's really the second part of our enterprise data cloud offering. I'm convinced that a rich suite of analytic services, machine learning and SQL and text search and data prep and analytics, combined with that security layer, running in a hybrid and multi-cloud environment is exactly what the enterprise needs. And I'm convinced that now the much larger Cloudera, the new Cloudera, combining the Hortonworks product line and people with the Cloudera product line and people, is in a fantastic position to deliver that to the market. We've got a much larger product line now, and we've got a much bigger team able to build and innovate faster than ever before.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
So I hear this, and there were point solutions before, data governance or Docker or however, but now getting that fabric together, that integration is very crucial for what needs to go forward.
Yeah, we certainly think so. And look, I mean, I'm an old guard relational database guy myself. Right? There is an essential role for SQL for data query and exploration in the enterprise. But what we're learning is that SQL as a point solution is insufficient. I want to be able to ingest, ETL prep all my data, and then I want to be able to query it. But hey, then I want to train some models on that data as well. I want to fire up 150 nodes of Spark using TensorFlow or something else in order to discover patterns in that data. And I don't want to have to make copies of the data. I don't want to move it from silo A to silo B because those silos have different user identity models and different security frameworks. And if I'm an enterprise CIO, I have to worry about living up to my regulatory obligations across that. If I can have a single fabric framework that allows me to do that, I'll be able to set the policy once, to use all the analytic tools I want, and to guarantee that I've got the security that I require.
Right. Fantastic. Now, you're talking about some of the issues of compliance coming in here. As organizations across the board become increasingly more data-driven, how can business leaders ensure that they have the data compliance in order? They have it coming along the way.
The essential capability is securing your data, setting the policies, and applying them. The Cloudera Enterprise Data Cloud offering, our Cloudera data platform, includes a central capability, the shared data experience, that allows administrators and data policy folks to see what data they've got, to assign access and revoke access to individual users groups by role or by identity, and then to monitor that compliance over time. And that is regardless of whether it's in the public cloud or on-prem, or how it may move among those. So those capabilities are essential. And I'll make the point that those capabilities are absolutely critical for a big enterprise. So the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, is now in effect in Europe. And what that means is every global organization has to apply it. And most are trying to apply it not just for their European clients. How do you guarantee that the guy's a European, right? They're required to do it more globally. I think in the next year or two, we're going to see meaningful privacy legislation emerge in the United States as well. I very much hope it's consistent with the GDPR in Europe. I'd like a common framework across all. But I think that this security, compliance, and privacy requirement is going to become even more critical in the coming years.
Excellent. Now, what role does ethics play? I know that this is a driver for a lot of what we're talking about with compliance, but what role does ethics play for data-driven, for this kind of movement of companies?
It's a very good question. So underlying the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, was an ethical concern for individual control over their data. More generally though, I think enterprises need to, and they're beginning to, ask not just what can we do with this data, but what should we do? If you go back a few years, you know, I've had conversations in venues and conversations like this one before about the don't be creepy rule, right? We don't want to do things that surprise or alarm users. As we collect more data, it becomes easier to be creepy. I think it's important for organizations to understand, first of all, what's the business reason for collecting this data? What questions we're going to ask? How long do we need to keep it, right? There will be a time when we've got the answers to those questions. And at that point, I think it's important for organizations to get rid of data that they no longer require. You hear about all of these very big data breaches. In my view, sometimes it's just laziness. Organizations collect data, they fail to delete it, and it becomes a very attractive target for hackers or others to break in. So look, I think we in the industry need to drive this ethical conversation. It's likely to be enforced by legislation as well, but the longer we wait, the worse it's going to get.
Right. Now, there is legislation coming even in California. There's something that's similar to GDPR, isn't it?
Indeed. So California, Massachusetts, a few of the other states here in the U.S. are in the vanguard in consumer privacy laws applying to data. I'm glad to see that. I really do think that we want a governmental and society-wide approach to data privacy. I will say that I would prefer that there was a single framework across the United States rather than a whole bunch of individual state regs that were more or less consistent with one another or inconsistent with GDPR.
Right. One other question. Last year, it was a big one for open source, for the community aspects of open source. Cloudera obviously is a pioneer in open source. So what do you see coming up next? I mean, where is this going?
I think that we're going to see the pace of innovation continue, even accelerate. Open source is clearly the way for communities to collaborate, to create powerful new software services and models. And you've seen a huge number of really impactful projects emerge. I mean, the Hadoop project is now like 12 years old. 2006 was its first production deployment. Spark emerged maybe 7 years ago now, right? We've seen a whole bunch of data ingest, Apache NiFi, for example, projects emerge. So in the data space, we're going to see continued evolution of these services. I also think we're going to see creative new ways to apply those to business problems. You've seen a lot of innovation in licensing these days, more or less open, more or less coercive licenses. I think that story's a little bit overblown. I think the ecosystem as a whole, public cloud providers like Amazon and Microsoft, are actually great contributors to the open source ecosystem. There are many companies, Cloudera among them, with a financial stake in open source, and we're going to find ways to monetize what we do, just as Amazon and Microsoft, and by the way, IBM and Oracle and startups do. But I think the fact that open source is such a rich way to collaborate with one another means we're going to see that movement accelerate in the coming years.
And the community aspect of it, the collaboration, this is the vendors, it's also individuals, developers, but it's also the teams from enterprise, from the customer side that are involved.
Oh, that's absolutely right. I mean, look, CIOs love open source for a bunch of reasons. One is, they don't have to worry about being locked into a single vendor. They've got all the code themselves. They can self-support, they can find another vendor. A really critical advantage, though, is that the technical folks in the enterprise can see all the way down to the metal. They can look at the code, they know what the APIs are, they know how it operates. They can innovate in the projects, and they can innovate on top of the projects as well. Sharing source code lets people be more creative faster, and it unlocks a whole bunch more innovation than black box proprietary software ever did.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mike.
Always good, Michael. Thank you.